things in my life, so I hustle.
Happy New Year, YouTube, and welcome to IT Hustle. We'll be continuing the series exploring the Blue Team Field Manual. In the last video, we got into managing Windows services. In this video, we'll be getting into managing the Windows host-based firewall, Windows Defender. So without further ado, let's get it. So from the text, we got the CLI syntax to manage Windows Defenders. We can show the rules and toggle the profile state as we see fit. So let's head over to the lab and check this out. Okay, for the first example, we're going to display all the firewall rules and put them in a text file. So we're going to do net sh adv firewall show rule name equal all to show all rules, and then put them in a text file right here in the directory we're in. Alright, so now we have our file here. I'm going to open that up. So at the top, we have the rule name, allow RPC in. It is enabled. Direction is inbound. For all profiles, domain, private, and public. What port it talks on this host. The remote port, the origin port that the traffic is coming from. It's allowing from any, or accepting from any, excuse me, and then the action is to allow it. Then the next rule is for Firefox. It is enabled, direction in, private profile only, protocol UDP, etc., etc. Now we're going to view the current profile state. So the syntax, we have netsh advanced firewall show current profile. Make sure we copy all that. Gonna clear the screen. So now we see the profile state. The state is currently on. Firewall policy blocks inbound and allows outbound. So in the next example, we're going to change the inbound policy to block inbound always. Now, what's the difference? So block inbound, all inbound traffic will be blocked unless you have a rule in effect to allow that traffic. Block inbound always is like lockdown. All firewall rules will be ignored and all traffic will be blocked. So that's like for an emergency situation. You block everything if you have that situation going on. Alright, so we're going to copy the syntax in netsh, advanced firewall, set current profile, firewall policy, block inbound always, and then allow outbound. Alright, so that's set. And then we can check that by tabbing up, going up arrow. Show the current profile. Now we see that block inbound always is enabled. Alright, but we're going to remove that block inbound always. And then let's just make sure that it took effect. Okay, so now we're back to block inbound. Okay, so in the next example is where we can turn the firewall on or off, be it all three profiles, public, private, and domain, or just all at once. So the first thing we're going to do is turn it all off. Let's clear that. Alright, and we can confirm that. If you want a visual representation, we'll open control panel. Look at the firewall, and then we see all profiles are turned off. Okay, and you can set individual ones on. So here's the syntax: netsh advanced firewall set public profile state on. If you want only the public one on for whatever reason, you can do that. And see, that one's on, or the other ones remain off. You can turn the private one on. And we'll do the same for the domain. Then we can turn them all off. We did. And then turn them back on. So right now they're all off. Turn them all back on. And there we go. So again, from the text, we have the CLI syntax to open ports and create rules to govern the allowed traffic to this device, and some ways to enable logging for the host space firewall. So let's go back to the lab and check this out. In the first example, we're going to allow SSH from anywhere. Syntax netsh, ADV firewall, firewall add rule name open SSH, SSH server. Direction's going to be inbound. We're going to allow that TCP protocol in port 22. All right. So since we're doing it from anywhere, we're going to test this out. Going to open the Ubuntu box on .18. And we're just going to use FileZilla. We're going to connect to our server on .20. All right, and specify port 22, connect. And we're going to accept the fingerprint. There we are connected. Have our directory, our playbooks, SOPs, and scripts. So we can confirm we can connect there. Now we're going to delete this rule because the next rule we're going to only allow access from a specific IP address. So let's go ahead and delete that rule. Syntax for deleting the rule: netsh ADV firewall, firewall delete rule name equals, and you only have to put the rule name. You don't have to put the directionality or whatever port. Just delete the rule name, you'll be good to go. Okay, so now we're going to allow SSH only from the .19 host. That's our Kali box in the lab. So we're going to use the same rule name, same direction in, allow it, protocol, TCP, port 22, but this time we specify remote IP .19. Okay. So let's head over to the Ubuntu box. Let's try FileZilla again. This time I'm just go to server and reconnect. And now we see we're not getting connected because the IP address here is .20. So we'll wait for that to error out. All right. So now we'll come to the allowed IP address, .19. All right. And let's close and reopen. All right, so I'm gonna go to server, reconnect, tap in the password, accept the fingerprint, and we get connected just fine because we're allowed to come through on .19. Okay. So now we're going to enable logging of dropped connections. The reason is if you're checking the logs and you see a lot of dropped connections, you know someone or something is doing something you don't want it to do. So let's go ahead and enable logging for dropped connections. Syntax, netsesh. I like to say netsesh. ADV firewall, advanced firewall, set current profile, logging, dropped connections enabled. Let's copy that. Put that in here. All right. We're also going to log the allowed connections. Why not? Make sure the people who are authorized are actually getting through, right? All right. So I'm going to close this. We're going to come back to the Ubuntu box. And we know the Ubuntu box is blocked because it's not .19. So let's try to connect. Let's wait for it to error out. So let's come over to .19, the authorized box. Let's close to disconnect, and then we'll reconnect. All right. So we've enabled the login of dropped and allowed connections. So by default, the logs are located here in the system root, system32, log files, firewall /p firewall.log. So let's check out that file. It's about 146. We're looking for, what, 145, 146 logs. So let's scroll down. And it's in military time. If you don't know how to tell military time, just add 12 to whatever number. And then if you get beyond 12, just minus 12 and you'll have the right time. So at 145, 1345. All right, we have an allow from .19 right here. So it allowed it. Then we have a drop on .18 around the same time frame. Have few drops from .18 around the same time frame. So now we're successfully logging that activity. So if you see a bunch of drops from unauthorized hosts or IPs, you know someone or something is doing something it ain't supposed to. And then for the allowed connection, you could see that the ones that you have whitelisted or allowed are getting permitted properly. That's it for this video. We saw how to manage Windows Defender Firewall primarily by command line, touch the GUI a little bit, but in summary, maintaining your system's firewall, such as Windows servers firewall, is important. It grants you the power to regulate access, safeguard against uninvited intruders and potential hazards, and adds a pivotal layer of defense within your broader security playbook. Not properly tending to or maintaining your firewall over time can open the door to an array of threats and vulnerabilities. In the next video, we'll be getting into various ways the text covers resetting passwords. All resources from this video will be linked in the description. If you haven't already and digging the content, please throw a like and subscribe to the channel. I thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video.
I want the finer things in my life, so I hustle.